right. Welcome to Turnaround Tuesday here, June 23rd. Thanks for jumping in. Not much of a turnaround, and we might have to change the dang theme of this Tuesday show to Downturn Tuesday or Turn Down Tuesday, something like that, because we got to change these markets up. Yeah, had some flash sales to Mexico this morning, had some flash sales last week. That's good to see. 3-session slide here in your corn market, approaching a retest of those contract lows. We got July options expiring this Friday, and we've got a couple big reports next week. So with that, let's quote up your markets, and we'll jump into the show here. All right, looking at Dees corn, we got Dees corn down a penny, 438.5. Looking at new crop Nove beans, we're up 3 1/4 cents at 11.44 3/4. Bean oil is a little bit weaker. Bean meal is up 3 points. In your wheat market, wheat definitely the leader to the downside here. You got KC wheat down 11 to 12 cents and Chicago wheat down 7.5 cents. Cotton market's a couple points weaker as well. Over in your cattle markets, you got feeders down $1.30 to $2 lower, and your live cattle down $1.20 to $1 lower. So a lot of pressure in your markets, a lot of red on the screen. Gonna have to do some digging to find some green here. With that, I'm gonna bring in my friend, my guest, my co-host here, Mr. Connor B. Connor B, welcome.
How are you? Hey, how we doing? Good. And hey, you said it wasn't Turnaround Tuesday, but if I could do a little bit of optimism, we were trying to make new lows this morning in the corn market, and as of right now, 12.18, we're bouncing off those lows. So is that maybe just me trying to be optimistic? Sure, but corn's trying to close positive here, Brady. We'll see how we finish.
I like it. Yeah, you got to reach for that positivity, and here we are. Yeah, being off the session lows. That's a good thing here. So is this all pre-market, pre-report positioning for next week? What are we focused on right now in the corn market, Connor?
Yeah, it's that time of year where we're looking at weather. And then next week, I think it's a week from today is going to be that June acreage report. And that one, it's a big one on everyone's calendar because it's going to show us what's USDA going to say for corn and soybean acres, right? Last time we saw this was in March, where it was, very much survey based, kind of that acreage intentions. Okay, what's the USDA going to say that we actually have out there? It's a big one, and it's the one that could really move the market.
Okay, yeah, week away here. Drive the market. We'll see what happens here. Got a graphic here. I'm going to pull that in. I think it's time, don't you think? Let's look at some of this stuff here.
Yeah, just look, and so what this is showing is just looking at planted acreage estimates from March, right? Your green line's going to be where did we start, yellow's June, and the blue line's the final. So you can see last year on soybeans, right, we ended up with less soybean acres, really added fuel to the fire in that bean rally we had from January to about March, April. And so right now they're calling for more soybean acres than we had last year. And if you could remember, the rhetoric's kind of been input costs in corn are higher. We saw a huge corn acre number last year. Does that mean that we're going to see more soybean acres? As of right now, we are going to see more, but it's not drastic. And I think the same goes for corn. So potential wild cards could be, did the U.S. farmer plant a whole lot more soybean acres and less corn given what the input costs were? Or does that old adage ring true? The U.S. farmer loves to plant corn. We'll see.
Right. And we had a wide open window there to get the crop in early. So, but it seemed, that farmers have changed how, the tendency to plant beans earlier has kind of taken over the last 4 or 5 years. So does that wide open window, did it allow the beans to go in? Or in the past, you might think that allowed more corn to go in, and you got corn in the planter, keep rolling and keep going. But maybe with the agronomy changes farmers have taken to plant beans earlier, maybe that's not the case this year. Good stuff.
Right. Flip it over to corn. Yeah. So corn, we're not predicting from March of last year to March of this year. Not a big difference, right? Brady, if we could go back a couple of years ago, 94 million acres of corn, that was a big number. Compared to last year, that's a small one, right? We ended up at 98 million acres of corn, more than we've planted easily in you and I's lifetime. So now, are we going to hold this number where we're at in March, or could we see more corn acre numbers, right? When the crop was going in the ground, December corn was above 5. There's a lot of reasons we could see that corn acre number maybe doesn't need to drop as much as some of us are hoping, but time will tell. As you can see, if we go back for the past 10 years, there's no correlation, nothing saying that most years we add acres, drop acres, right? There's nothing like that. So time will tell. We'll see this time. We'll see a week from today.
Yep. Yep. One thing I noticed there too is the difference between, there's change from March to June, obviously, but there's also even some change in this. This is a great graphic between June and the final. This number it's going to keep changing. It's a starting point. It's going to get adjusted here next week. But we saw that big jump last year, like you said, and we can continue to see these numbers get tweaked as we go forward. I wish to me, it doesn't make sense why this process continues to not be as inaccurate, I guess, in June, or why it takes so long to get
last year in 2025, we found how many corn acres was that, Brady? Like 4 million corn acres after FSA data was inputted, after all that from basically July to that final yield number. We just kept finding corn acre numbers, and everyone, myself included, it makes you question the validity of some of these reports and how maybe some of the USDA data is a little antiquated. I didn't say that word right, but you know what I mean.
Right. Well, let's talk about, you got another graphic here that I want to talk about and bring in here, talking about your crude, and we've talked about it before the last couple of weeks, crude oil and corn, and that trade, that market, and the correlation there. I'm going to throw this in real quick. It's good stuff. Yeah.
And so it's just one, if we look back on history, crude oil and corn are very much step for step, especially going back, to 2008 when we saw the ethanol boom, right? A third of our corn goes into gas tanks. It makes perfect sense that corn and crude are going to kind of follow each other, right? When crude oil went above $100, when we saw this big rally because the Strait of Hormuz was closed, corn didn't follow, right? And it was a frustrating thing. I would have rather seen that follow a little bit more lock and step. But now we've got crude oil. We're getting back to where the chart kind of matches itself, but not because corn rallied. It's because crude oil is coming down, which we'll see if it stays. It looks like Strait of Hormuz is open as of when we're filming this, so time will tell. But just one of those that the past couple of months, it would have been nice to see corn follow crude a little bit more.
Yep, sometimes they can trade together, and it looks like they can. When that last move, crude oil definitely separated from the corn market, and but add some pressure back on the way down. So good graphic though, and I like looking at this. Just paints a picture of how these markets, they can get married up and synced up, and you can have one headline that takes off and drives all markets and raises all boats. The rising tide lifts all boats, but sometimes they do separate, and just it's always changing here. So
right. Speaking of that, I don't know where you had next, but just we had the holiday Friday, so usually we get that commitment to traders on Friday. We got it yesterday, and this time of year, that's a big thing. We've seen that fund positioning go from a pretty good long position, right? Funds were pretty bullish this corn market to what it feels like to me in the blink of an eye, we've got them with a short position, and they continue to add to it. And that's what we saw yesterday. I think I got a few CO2. I think I got a few charts to show that.
Okay, let's look at that. Soybeans here.
Okay, we'll start with soybeans. So soybeans, number one, as you can see, they still hold a long position in soybeans, but they're very much coming off where they are, right? Funds are selling corn, they're selling soybeans. I think when we talk about the soybean complex in fund positioning, I want to look at soybean oil, because that's the one where I look at it that we've got. It's getting a little crowded there at the top. We've had a fund position that's been long, and it's been record long for quite a long time, right? We've seen a lot of excitement in terms of biofuels, and we've seen soybean oil really rally and seeing funds buy it. And so as you can see, the past, two, three COT reports, they've started pulling back. They're pulling back on that long position. And something that makes me nervous, when no matter the commodity, when we see a fund position that's this extremely long, any type of negative headline or some type of technicals that sends funds that they just want to exit that long position, send this thing going down, it makes me nervous. And so when I look at soybeans, when I look at soybean oil, I see a long position that's very long in soybean oil. And if that party were to end, it'd make me a little nervous.
Yep. Something to keep in mind as you evaluate your risk and think about where you're at with marketing your bean crop and just crops in general is where is managed money. And if they have that, I love that comment, Connor. If they have a big long position built, where's the risk? Is it that they're going to continue to build and push to a even more record length? Are they going to double it? Or is it that they run for the exits and you're sitting there trying to manage your risk at the same point in time? So Don't put yourself in that situation and avoid that.
Yeah, which we kind of saw if you have corn, the corn.
I don't think I have the corn one in here, but sorry, Connor B. I failed you.
That's okay.
No corn.
Corn, I can sum it up for you. Corn, we had a significant long position, and I guess I'll say, what's the typical playbook with when it comes to fund positioning commodities in general? And when we look at the corn market, is we have funds building a long position into the summer months, because if we have a drought, they're going to want to own corn. Then if the weather looks pretty good, if we see the crops there, we see a fund sell off, and we see the price drop, right? We've already seen that in terms of funds selling, right? They have ran for the hills and they flipped a decent long position to now a net short position. And don't get me wrong, there's room for them to continue selling and continue to see this thing go lower if we see perfect weather, if we see 98 million acres of corn. There's nothing we can do. They're going to keep selling this as they should. But it's a little bit where it's earlier than typical, right? We already have a short position in funds, and it's June 23rd. They had a short position on last week. So, it could be interesting to see, for going into July, right? Let's just say here, this is for the bulls. If you haven't been listening, tune in here. If we see some adverse weather flip for July, where we start seeing maybe this top end of the yields pulling back, we get funds back buying. Well, we can maybe buck the seasonality and have some type of rally, right? That's something I could see, but I'm not making any promises, Brady.
Right. But I like the spin. I like the comment because, yes, we've had tremendous amount of pressure in this market. The weather premium's getting sucked out. Are we trading a perfect crop right now? And it leads me into what I'm going to call the question of the day, Connor B, is have we seen the best crop condition ratings for the year at this point in time?
Oh, good question. History says when we look at crop conditions, we kind of start high, and they typically we'll see them taper off. So to say that a high crop conditions that's not, I could very well see it that we start tapering off from here. But time will tell.
Weather, good weather to start the season. We've had they were unchanged. I think you have a graphic here. I'll pull that in.
Yeah.
Corn conditions unchanged versus last week, 68%. They were 70% last year, 64% on average. We have good weather right now. Got some warmth coming in the forecasts. Probably welcome for some areas, but will it be too much for others? And what will those adjustments mean? But so how many times do these crop conditions come in year after year and they change, and then the USDA does not make us the same adjustment on yield and production? So do you take these numbers and just throw them out the window because they don't even matter? I don't know. But the guy's got to wonder, is the crop going to get better from here, or is it going to get worse from here? And it impacts my marketing decisions, and my marketing thoughts is working with customers is, man, we've had this massive sell-off. We talked about it last week. Where's SCO? Where's ECO? Where's our insurance coverage at? And there's probably still some downside risk, but selling too early and, missing out on some upside of some big China demand surge. is that a risk as well that we got to think about too? So that's a little food for the bulls and a bone we can throw out for them. Maybe.
Yeah, and to your comment on crop conditions, are they the be all end all? Absolutely not, right? They're looking backwards, and I got to tell you, funds, anyone else, they're looking forward, right? We're looking at the extended weather forecasts, and going from there. They're a good indicator of where things are. It gives people like you and me something to talk about. But when you're making a marketing decision, are you checking the crop conditions before deciding to buy or sell? No, right?
Dope. That's for somebody in an office somewhere in a metro area that hasn't stepped foot in a corner bean field in 6 months, maybe not in their lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. But
here we
I
go,
will
Connor
say,
B.
let's do it.
I'm going to jump into KC wheat real quick, and you touched on this with seasonality in this, this sort of sell-off that we see, but we do see seasonals, and this is a chart from Bar Chart, their commodity view software that's I'm getting a test drive of and really enjoying looking at. But KC wheat December seasonality, we're in the midst of wheat harvest right now. We've seen a sell-off in this market, and this is another one of those questions of, what now? Well, the 5-year and the 10-year seasonals on KC wheat December contract, it looks like there could continue to be some downward pressure if you look at those seasonals. But I've got 2 years pulled in there, 2020 and 2021, where we bucked the seasonal trend and we saw a nice market rally post-harvest. So as farmers, you're wrapping up wheat harvest here in Kansas, in the heart of wheat country. You've got some important decisions to make on your marketing. Are we going to have that doldrum year where you need to convert that wheat to cash, stop storage, stop interest charges, and take the cash today to pay down some debt? Or will we see that rally going forward? I think I've been talking to a lot of guys, and I like selling that cash wheat at the elevator and retaining some of that upside with some call options or some positions on paper that give you that opportunity to participate if we see more demand coming to the table.
Right. Absolutely.
So that's my tidbit on wheat here, and then I'm going to jump in, talk a little bit of cattle real quick. This is just an update on your screwworm. We've got 16 cases right now. 13 of those are active. To put it in perspective, Connor, I think there's 29,000 active cases in Mexico right now. So drop in the bucket, 16. It's here. It's slowly increasing, but it hasn't been that explosive, 100 cases a week detection yet. Maybe we'll get there over the course. I certainly know we have some fly issues. We're starting to see more flies out in the cow herd right now. It's just that time of year where fly pressure is going to be increasing. So it's a management problem though. And I'm sure there's a lot of attention being paid to it on American ranches across the country of taking care of fly control, monitoring the situation. Bottom line, beef's still safe, but we'll be watching that screwworm updates for more updates over the coming weeks. So with that, Connor B, anything else to wrap up a turnaround Tuesday here other than missing the turnaround?
No, I want to reiterate by next week, right? We'll see that June acreage report. It's one, you and I are not in the business of predicting prices. We're sure as heck not in the business of predicting USDA reports, because it's not about guessing how many corn and soybean acres are out there. It's about guessing what the USDA says is how many corn and soybean acres out there. And so it could be a big one, right? If we're positioned, a certain way. If you did a really good job selling this crop and you want some insurance in case things flip, now's the time to call your broker. Let's just make sure we're ready for anything. Know where that crop insurance floor, know what it's doing for you, and then go from there. And we'll see what the numbers say.
Yep, good points. Volatility is low, makes that re-ownership strategy inexpensive to go out there and get a little upside against some good sales that you hopefully made. Good stuff. Yeah. Connor B, agmarket.net. Thanks for joining me. Hit Connor B up, and if you're looking for a good broker, Connor B is a great one in an I state, soaking in all that rain, moisture. The corn's growing. Let's get another look at that corn crop in Connor's backyard. Look at that bad boy. Corn.
We had Illinois has broke the record. It is June 23rd, and we broke the record for most tornadoes ever seen in Illinois. It's something like we averaged 50. I'm throwing out numbers, and we've had like 147, 140. Like it's like in the 140s. So a ton of adverse weather. We got a ton of precipitation. My area missed the strong winds, the hail, and the tornadoes. A lot of if you go 30 miles east, 20 miles north, we saw it. But if you're looking at my backyard, we're looking pretty good. We've got enough precipitation. We can use a little heat. It's been a little cool, but we're looking pretty good. I don't want to jinx it, but it looks pretty good so far.
Yeah, well, it's the official start of summer too. We had the summer solstice, June 21st on Sunday. Happy Father's Day to a lot of the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day to you, Connor B. I know you got a lot of rugrats running around too.
I do. You as well.
Yeah, cool. Well, every Friday I send out the weekend wrap to customers and clients. If you are interested in getting that, head on over to my website, EmpowerAgTrading.com. Drop your contact info, and we'd love to get you started and see what we have to offer here. So thanks for joining us today, and we will be back next week. Hopefully got a little more green on the screen, got a lot to talk about next week's report. We'll see you.